The wind howled like a beast through the crumbling walls of the abandoned Chicago warehouse, where a young mother's ragged breasts fought against the iron grip of winter's cold and her failing lungs. "I can't breathe," she whispered desperately into the void, clutching her infant daughter beneath a tattered cloth, her plea a fragile thread in the night. But when a billionaire's flashlight pierced the darkness and he lifted that cloth, revealing the tiny, frost-kissed face beneath, his heart froze, not just from shock, but from the echo of his own forgotten past. Welcome back, my beautiful family. Before we begin, please click subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more thrilling stories, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's get into the story. The city of Chicago in January was a merciless predator, its icy winds stalking the streets like hunters in search of the weak and the weary. Snowflakes danced cruelly outside the shattered windows of the derelict warehouse on the south side, a forgotten skeleton of steel and concrete that had once housed bustling factories but now served as a tomb for the forgotten. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of rust and decay, mingled with a faint, acrid tang of desperation. Sarah Mitchell, a 28-year-old single mother with skin the rich hue of polished ebony and eyes that held the weight of too many broken promises, huddled in the farthest corner she could find. Her body trembled uncontrollably, not just from the hypothermia that was sinking its claws into her bones, but from the asthma attack that had her chest constricting like a vice. Each breath was a battle, a shallow rasp that echoed off the bare walls. She pressed her 3-month-old daughter, Michaela, closer to her chest, wrapping the child in every layer she could muster, a threadbare sweater, a scavenged scarf, and finally, the grimy tarp she'd pulled from a nearby dumpster earlier that evening. Michaela's tiny body was warm against her, a fragile flame in the encroaching darkness, but Sarah could feel the cold seeping in, threatening to snuff it out. "Shoo! Baby girl," Sarah murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, cracked and hoarse from the effort. "Mama's got you. We're gonna be okay." But even as the words left her lips, doubt clawed at her mind. How could they be okay? Evicted from their tiny apartment 4 days ago, after falling behind on rent. Again, Sarah had nowhere to go. Her family had turned their backs on her long ago, calling her pregnancy a mistake. Her choices foolish. Friends? What friends? The streets had swallowed them up, just like they were trying to swallow her now. The asthma had hit hard that night, triggered by the dust and mold in the warehouse air. Her inhaler, her lifeline, lay empty in her pocket, discarded after the last futile puff hours ago. She'd pawned everything else, her phone, her few pieces of jewelry, to buy formula for Michaela, but medicine? That was a luxury she couldn't afford. "I can't breathe," Sarah gasped again, this time louder, as if willing the word to summon help from the ether. Her vision blurred at the edges, spots dancing like malevolent fireflies. She rocked back and forth, trying to generate some heat, her dark curls matted with sweat despite the freezing temperature. Michaela stirred faintly, letting out a weak cry that pierced Sarah's heart like a shard of ice. "Please, someone help us," Sarah pleaded, her voice echoing into the vast emptiness of the building. But who would hear? Who would care? In a city of millions, she was invisible, just another statistic in the endless cycle of poverty. Outside, the world carried on oblivious. Cars sloshed through slushy streets, their headlights cutting brief swaths through the blizzard. Pedestrians bundled in thick coats hurried home to warm fires and hot meals. But here, in this godforsaken place, time had slowed to a crawl, each second a torment. Sarah's mind raced back to how she'd ended up here. It started with a dead-end job at a fast food joint, barely paying enough to cover diapers and rent. Then came the layoff, the mounting bills, the eviction notice taped to her door like a scarlet letter. She tried shelters, but they were overflowing, weightless, stretching into weeks. The warehouse had seemed like a last resort, a tip from a fellow homeless woman she'd met at a soup kitchen. "It's empty," the woman had said. "Brooks Tech owns it, but they're not doing nothing with it yet. Just be careful." Brooks Tech. Sarah had heard of them, a massive tech company revolutionizing everything from AI to community apps. Their founder, Ethan Brooks, was plastered on billboards across the city, a white man in his mid-30s with sharp features, piercing blue eyes, and a smile that screamed success. He was the kind of billionaire who made headlines for his philanthropy, building tech hubs for underserved neighborhoods. But what did that matter to her? People like him lived in penthouses, not in the shadows where she scraped by. Still, as she shivered under the tarp, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if fate had a twisted sense of humor, leading her to a property owned by a man who could buy her problems 1,000 times over. The cold deepened, numbing her fingers and toes. Sarah's thoughts turned inward, to memories of warmer days. Growing up in a cramped apartment on the west side, she dreamed of more, of college, a career in graphic design, maybe even her own business. But life had other plans. A toxic relationship with Michaela's father, who vanished the moment the pregnancy test turned positive. The judgment from her conservative family, who saw her as a failure. "You made your bed," her mother had said, slamming the door. Now, that bed was a concrete floor, and the only thing keeping her going was a tiny bundle in her arms. Michaela's breasts were shallow, her little lips tinged with blue. Panic surged through Sarah. "No, no, baby, stay with me," she whispered urgently, rubbing the child's back. But her own strength was fading. The asthma squeezed tighter, her lungs burning with every inhale. "I can't breathe." It was then that the footsteps came, crisp, deliberate, crunching over the debris-strewn floor. Sarah's heart leaped, a mix of hope and terror. Was it a security guard? A predator? She froze, pulling the tarp tighter over them. But it was too late. A beam of light sliced through the darkness, sweeping across the walls like a searchlight. It landed on her corner, illuminating the makeshift shelter. "Hello? Anyone in here?" A man's voice called out, deep and authoritative, laced with surprise. Sarah didn't respond, too weak to speak, but Michaela let out another faint cry. The footsteps quickened, drawing closer, the light focused on the tarp, and then a hand reached out, lifting the edge. Sarah's eyes met those of a stranger, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in an expensive coat that screamed wealth. His face, illuminated by the flashlight, was handsome but etched with concern. Strong jaw, neatly trimmed beard, those blue eyes widening in shock. Ethan Brooks had not planned on this. He'd been driving back from a late-night meeting at his downtown office, brainstorming his latest project, transforming this very warehouse into a state-of-the-art community tech hub. It was part of his nonprofit arm, aimed at providing free coding classes, job training, and digital resources to low-income families. The idea had hit him during a routine site inspection detour. He wanted to see the space again, visualize the renovations. Parking his Tesla outside, he'd braved the storm, flashlight in hand, never expecting to find life amid the ruins. When he lifted the tarp, time stopped. There, curled in a ball, was a woman, beautiful despite the dirt and exhaustion etched on her face, her dark skin pale from the cold. But it was the baby that made his heart freeze. The infant's tiny face was ashen, lips blue, eyes half closed in a daze. Memories flooded Ethan like a tidal wave. His own childhood in Chicago's shelters, huddling with a single mother against similar winters. The nights when hunger gnawed and hope seemed as distant as the stars. He clawed his way out through sheer grit, building Brooks Tech from a garage startup into a billion-dollar empire. But seeing this, it was like staring into a mirror of his past. "Oh, God," Ethan muttered, his voice breaking. He dropped to his knees, shrugging off his coat and wrapping it around the pair. "Hey, can you hear me? I'm here to help." Sarah's eyes fluttered, meeting his. "Can't breathe," she managed, her hand weakly gesturing to her chest. "Asthma? Hypothermia?" Ethan assessed quickly, his mind racing. He scooped him up, Sarah light as a feather, the baby a precious weight against his chest. Dialing 911 with one hand, he barked into the phone. "I need an ambulance at the old warehouse on 47th and Halstead. Woman and infant. Severe cold exposure. Possible asthma attack. Hurry." But as the operator droned about response times in the storm, Ethan made a split-second decision. He couldn't wait. Carrying them to his car, he blasted the heat, laying Sarah in the back seat with Michaela still clutched to her. The drive to Chicago General Hospital was a blur of snow-slicked roads and honking horns. Ethan kept glancing back, urging Sarah to stay awake. "Talk to me. What's your name?" "The baby's." Sarah whispered responses between gasps. Sarah! McKella! He shared bits of himself to keep her grounded. I'm Ethan. I own this place. Well, the company does. You're going to be fine. I promise. At the ER, chaos erupted. Nurses swarmed, wheeling Sarah to a bay for oxygen and meds, rushing McKella to the NICU warmer. Ethan paced the waiting room, his designer suit rumpled, mind reeling. Why had he gone there tonight? Fate? Coincidence? Whatever it was, he couldn't walk away. When a doctor emerged, confirming both would recover but needed monitoring, Ethan stepped up. Bill everything to me. Whatever they need, tests, meds, rooms. Hours later, Sarah woke in a warm bed, for dripping fluids, an oxygen mask easing her breaths. A nurse smiled down. You're lucky that man found you. He's covering all costs. Sarah's eyes widened. Who? Ethan Brooks, the tech guy. He's still here, waiting to check on you. As dawn broke over the city, painting the hospital windows in soft pinks, Ethan entered her room quietly. He looked different in the light, less imposing, more human, with faint lines of worry around his eyes. How are you feeling? He asked, pulling up a chair. Better, Sarah replied cautiously, her voice stronger. McKella? She's stable, warming up nicely. Docs say she'll be out soon. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. Thank you. I don't know how to repay. Don't, Ethan interrupted gently. I've been where you are. Grew up in shelters with my mom. No dad, no safety net. I built my life from nothing, but I never forgot. Let me help, not as charity, as a chance. Sarah studied him. Seeing the sincerity, it wasn't pity, it was understanding. What do you mean? An apartment in one of my buildings. Rent-free till you're on your feet. Tech training through my nonprofit. Job skills. You can rebuild. Hesitation flickered, but hope won. Okay, for McKella. As Ethan left to make arrangements, Sarah stared at the ceiling, a spark igniting in her chest. One moment of compassion. Could it really change everything? Or was it the soul willing to see the unseen that made the difference? The hospital buzzed around her, a stark contrast to the warehouse's silence. Social workers hovered, questioning her homelessness, hinting at child services. Panic rose. Could they take McKella? But Ethan's influence smoothed things. He vouched for her, promising support. By midday, McKella was back in her arms, pink-cheeked and cooing. Discharged with meds and follow-ups paid for, Sarah stepped into Ethan's waiting car, heading to a new apartment in a safe neighborhood. The place was modest but clean, a one-bedroom with heat, a stock fridge, even baby supplies. This is temporary, Ethan said, handing her keys, but use it to get strong. Over the next days, Sarah settled in, her body healing, her mind racing. Ethan's visits were brief but kind, bringing groceries, checking in. He shared more of his story. Orphaned young, his mom working 3 jobs, nights in cars or shelters. Tech saved me, he said. Learned coding in a library, built my first app. Now I want to give that to others. Inspired, Sarah enrolled in the training program. Mornings were classes on basic coding. Afternoons caring for McKella. Evenings she'd practice. Fingers flying over a lone laptop. Ethan's encouragement fueled her. You got talent, he'd say during coffee chats. But as weeks turned to months, something shifted. Their conversations deepened, laughs over McKella's antics, shared dreams. Sarah felt seen, not saved. Yet doubt lingered. Was this real or obligation? One night, as snow fell softly outside her window, Sarah held McKella close, whispering thanks to the universe. The warehouse had been her nadir, but Ethan's arrival? A pivot. Little did she know, it was just the beginning. The morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains of Sarah's new apartment, casting soft golden patches across the hardwood floor. It was a far cry from the warehouse's oppressive darkness, yet Sarah Mitchell sat on the edge of her bed, clutching a mug of tea that had long gone cold. Her dark eyes, still shadowed with the memory of that freezing night, darted to McKella, who slept soundly in a crib by the window. The baby's tiny chest rose and fell, her cheeks now a healthy pink, a stark contrast to the ghostly pallor Sarah had seen under that tarp. The hospital discharged 2 weeks ago. It felt like a miracle. But now, in the quiet of this unfamiliar space, uncertainty gnawed at her. Ethan Brooks' generosity was a lifeline, but it came with questions she wasn't ready to answer. Could she trust this? Could she trust him? The apartment was small but warm, a one-bedroom on the second floor of a renovated building in Bronzeville, one of Ethan's many properties. The walls were painted a soothing cream. The kitchen stocked with essentials, cereal, milk, fresh fruit, even a jar of peanut butter, her childhood favorite. A stack of baby clothes, diapers, and a brand-new car seat sat neatly in the corner, courtesy of Ethan's assistant. It was more than Sarah had dared to hope for in months, yet each gift felt like a weight. She wasn't used to kindness without strings. Growing up, her mother's love had come with conditions: good grades, perfect behavior, no mistakes. When Sarah got pregnant at 27, that conditional love vanished entirely. "You're on your own," her mother had said, her voice cold as a January wind. Now, here was Ethan, offering not just shelter but a chance to rebuild. Why? What did he want? Sarah stood, smoothing her worn jeans, and crossed the crib. Michaela stirred, her tiny fist uncurling. Sarah's heart softened, the familiar ache of love pushing back her doubts. "We're going to make it, baby girl," she whispered, brushing a finger along Michaela's cheek. The promise felt more real here, in this warm space, than it had in the warehouse. But promises were fragile, and Sarah knew better than to let hope take root too quickly. A knock at the door startled her. She glanced at the clock. 9:15 a.m. Ethan had mentioned stopping by to discuss the training program, but she hadn't expected him so early. She opened the door to find him standing there, dressed casually in a navy sweater and jeans, a canvas bag slung over his shoulder. His blue eyes crinkled with a smile, but there was a hesitancy in his posture, as if he wasn't sure of his welcome. "Morning, Sarah," he said, his voice warm but careful. "Didn't wake you, did I?" "No, I've been up," she replied, stepping aside to let him in. "Michaela's still sleeping, though." Ethan glanced at the crib, his expression softening. "She's looking stronger every day." "You both are." Sarah nodded, unsure how to respond to the compliment. She gestured to the small living room, where a second-hand couch and a coffee table made up the entirety of furniture. "Want some tea? It's just the cheap stuff, but it's hot." "I'm good, thanks," Ethan said, setting the bag on the table. "I brought some things for the training program. Laptop, a few books, some software keys. Thought it'd help you get started." Sarah's eyes widened as she peeked into the bag. A sleek laptop, still in its box, sat atop a stack of coding manuals, Python, HTML, even a beginner's guide to app development. "Ethan, this is a lot," she said, her voice catching. "I don't know how to repay you for all this." He held up a hand, his expression firm but kind. "You don't repay help, Sarah. You pay it forward. That's the deal." She studied him, searching for the catch. His face was open, earnest, but she'd learned to be wary. Men like him, successful, powerful, didn't just hand out laptops and apartments. Yet his eyes held no trace of pity or ulterior motive, only a quiet conviction. She remembered his words in the hospital. "I've been where you are." Maybe he meant it. "Tell me about this training," she said, sitting on the couch. "What's the catch?" Ethan chuckled, settling across from her. "No catch. My nonprofit, TechBridge, runs programs to teach tech skills, coding, digital literacy, job prep. We focus on people who've been overlooked, single parents, ex-offenders, folks coming out of homelessness. I want you to join the next cohort. It's 6 months, all free. You learn, you build skills, maybe even land a job. We've got childcare on site for Michaela." Sarah's fingers tightened around her mug. It sounded too good to be true, but the idea of a job, a real one, not flipping burgers, lit a spark in her chest. She'd always loved art, sketching designs in notebooks as a teen, dreaming of graphic design before life derailed her. Tech wasn't far off. She'd mess around with free design apps on library computers. Maybe this could be her way back. "Why me?" she asked, her voice low. "You don't know me. I could fail, mess it up." Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I don't know you, But I know your fight. I saw it that night in the warehouse. You were half frozen, barely breathing, but you were still shielding Michaela. That's strength. Tech Bridge is about giving people like you a shot to show what they can do. His words hit hard, stirring memories of her own resilience. Nights studying by flashlight, working doubles to afford diapers. She wanted to believe him, but fear lingered. What if I'm not good enough? Then you learn, he said simply. I wasn't born coding apps. I failed 100 times before I got it right. You got the grit? Sarah, I'm betting on you. The sincerity in his voice disarmed her. For the first time in months, she felt seen, not as a failure, a statistic, or a burden, but as someone with potential. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. For Michaela, Ethan's smile widened. Good. Classes start Monday, 10 a.m. I'll have someone pick you up, show you the ropes. As he stood to leave, Sarah's gaze fell on the laptop box. A question burned in her mind, one she hadn't dared ask in the hospital. Ethan, why were you in that warehouse? Middle of a storm, no security, just you? He paused at the door, his hand on the knob. For a moment, his confident demeanor faltered, revealing a flicker of something raw. I don't sleep much, he admitted. Sometimes I drive to my project sites, clear my head. That night, I don't know, felt like I needed to be there. He met her eyes. Glad I was. The door closed softly behind him, leaving Sarah in the quiet apartment. She crossed to the window, watching his Tesla pull away through the snow-dusted street. Her mind churned. Ethan Brooks wasn't just a billionaire. He was a man carrying his own ghosts. That made him real, but it also made him dangerous. Not in a threatening way, but in how easily he could pull her into his orbit. Monday arrived faster than Sarah expected. She dressed carefully, choosing a clean blouse and jeans, her dark curls pulled into a neat bun. Michaela babbled happily in her car seat as a friendly TechBridge volunteer, a woman named Carla, drove them to the training center in Englewood. The building was modern, all glass and steel, with a sign reading TechBridge Community Hub. Inside, it buzzed with energy. Students at computers, instructors guiding groups, kids playing in a brightly lit daycare room. Sarah's nerves eased as she dropped Michaela off, the staff cooing over her daughter's big brown eyes. The training room was filled with a diverse group, mostly women, a few men, all ages, all carrying stories in their eyes. The instructor, a middle-aged black woman named Denise with a no-nonsense warmth, welcomed Sarah. You're the one Ethan's been talking about, she said, handing Sarah's syllabus. Let's see what you've got. The first week was overwhelming. Sarah learned basic HTML, her fingers clumsy on the keyboard but growing steadier each day. She sketched app interfaces in her notebook during breaks, blending her old love for design with new skills. At night, she'd study after putting Michaela to bed, the laptop's glow her only companion. Ethan checked in via text, brief but encouraging. How's it going? Denise says you're a natural. Sarah smiled at the messages, but kept her replies short, guarding her heart. By the second week, she was coding simple web pages, her confidence growing. During a group project, she met Jamal, a former mechanic-turned-coder, and Maria, a single mom like her. They bonded over shared struggles, swapping stories of late-night hustles and dreams deferred. This place is legit, Jamal said one day over lunch. Ethan's not like those rich guys who just throw money at problems. He gets it. Sarah nodded, but her mind drifted to Ethan's visits to the training center. He'd stop by, sleeves rolled up, helping troubleshoot code or joking with students. His presence was magnetic, his laugh easy, but Sarah noticed how his eyes lingered on her. Not in a predatory way, but with a curiosity that made her pulse quicken. She pushed it down. She wasn't here for that. She was here for Michaela, for a future. One evening, after a long day of classes, Ethan offered to drive her home. Michaela was asleep in her car seat, and the city lights blurred past as they talked. You're doing great, Ethan said, glancing at her. Denise says your designs are sharp. Ever thought about app development? Sarah shrugged, her cheeks warming. Maybe. I used to draw a lot. Logos, posters. Coding's like that, but bigger. It is, he agreed. You're building something real. That's what TechBridge is about, building futures. Their eyes met briefly, and Sarah looked away, her heart thudding. Why do you care so much? She asked, the question slipping out before she could stop it. You've got billions. You could be anywhere. Why this? Ethan's grip tightened on the wheel. Because I know what it's like to have nothing, he said quietly. My mom raised me in places like that warehouse. We'd sleep in cars, shelters, wherever we could. She died when I was 16, and I swore I'd make it. Not just for me, but for people like her, like you. The rawness in his voice caught her off guard. She'd assumed his wealth insulated him. But here was a man who clawed his way up, just as she was trying to. I'm sorry, she said softly. About your mom. He nodded, his jaw tight. Thanks. It's why I don't just write checks. I want to see the change, feel it. They drove in silence for a moment, the weight of his words settling between them. Sarah felt a shift, a crack in her defenses. Ethan wasn't just a savior. He was a partner in a fight she understood. But that connection scared her. Dependency was a trap she'd fallen into before. As he dropped her off, Ethan handed her a flyer for TechBridge's upcoming community showcase, where students would present projects. You in? He asked, his smile teasing. Yeah, she said, meeting his gaze. I'm in. That night, as she tucked Michaela in, Sarah thought about the warehouse, the tarp, the moment Ethan's light found them. Kindness had saved her, but could it rebuild her? What's the bravest step you've taken to start over? Share below and join the conversation. The TechBridge community hub pulsed with life, its glass walls reflecting the late February sun as Sarah Mitchell stepped inside, her laptop bag slung over her shoulder and Michaela nestled in a stroller. The air buzzed with the hum of computers, the chatter of students, and the occasional burst of laughter from the daycare room, where Michaela spent her days. Sarah's mornings had settled into a rhythm over the past month. Drop Michaela off, dive into coding classes, and lose herself in the logic of HTML and CSS. It was grueling but exhilarating, like rediscovering a part of herself she'd buried under years of survival. Her fingers, once hesitant on the keyboard, now danced with purpose, crafting clean lines of code that turned into vibrant web page mock-ups. She felt a spark she hadn't known since her teenage days, sketching logos in her notebook, dreaming of a creative life. Today's class focused on JavaScript, a leap from the static design she'd mastered. The instructor, Denise, stood at the front, her voice commanding yet warm as she explained variables and functions. Sarah scribbled notes, her brow furrowed. JavaScript was trickier, its logic slippery, but she was determined to crack it. Across the room, her classmates, Jamal, Maria, and a dozen others, shared her mix of focus and frustration. They were a motley crew, bound by the shared weight of second chances. Jamal, with his quick wit, muttered, "This code's going to make me miss fixing carburetors," earning a chuckle from Sarah. Maria, balancing a notebook and a photo of her own kids, shot her a grin. "Girl, we got this. We're building futures, right?" Sarah nodded, but her mind wandered to Ethan Brooks. He'd been a constant presence at TechBridge, dropping in to troubleshoot code or share stories of his early coding days. His visits were professional but personal, his blue eyes lingering on her with a warmth that stirred something she wasn't ready to name. Yesterday, he'd pulled her aside after class, praising her latest project, a mock-up for a community app. "You've got an eye for design," he'd said, leaning against the desk, his sleeves rolled up. "Ever thought about leading a project?" The question had caught her off guard, planting a seed of ambition she hadn't dared nurture. Leading? Her? The woman who'd been scavenging for tarps a month ago? Now, as Denise assigned a group project, building a simple interactive web page, Sarah's group huddled around a table. Jamal took charge, sketching a rough wireframe, while Maria suggested a job board for local youth. Sarah proposed a clean, user-friendly interface with bold colors inspired by her old sketchbooks. "Make it pop," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. The group nodded, impressed, and Sarah felt a flicker of pride. Maybe Ethan was right. Maybe she could do more than just survive. Midway through class, Ethan appeared, his presence like a shift in the room's gravity. He wore a gray hoodie and jeans, blending in with the students, but his energy Confident, focused, set him apart. "How's it going, coders?" he called, clapping his hands. The room lit up with responses, his easy charisma drawing smiles. He stopped by Sarah's group, peering at their wireframe. "Nice work," he said, nodding at Sarah's design. "That's got soul. Keep it up." Her cheeks warmed, but she kept her focus on the screen. "Thanks," she said, her tone neutral. She wasn't here to flirt, no matter how her pulse quickened. Ethan lingered a moment, then moved on, but his words echoed in her mind. So, no one had ever called her work that before. After class, Sarah picked up Michaela from daycare. The baby's giggles had balmed her frazzled nerves. As she pushed the stroller toward the exit, Ethan caught up. "Got a minute?" he asked, falling into step beside her. "I wanted to talk about the showcase. Your group's project could be a highlight." Sarah hesitated, adjusting Michaela's blanket. "It's just a mock-up. Not sure it's showcase material." "It's more than that," Ethan countered, his voice earnest. "It's practical, community-focused. That's what TechBridge is about. Plus, you're a natural at this. I've seen your sketches. Those app interfaces? They're sharp." She glanced at him, searching for the catch. His praise felt genuine, but her past had taught her to question kindness. "Why push me so hard?" she asked, stopping by the glass doors. "You don't owe me anything." Ethan's expression softened, a flicker of his past crossing his face. "It's not about owing. It's about seeing potential. I grew up with nothing. Sarah, my mom used to say, find someone who sees your light, even when you can't. I see yours." The words hit like a punch, stirring memories of her own mother's rejection. Sarah swallowed, her throat tight. "I don't know what to say to that." "You don't have to say anything," Ethan said, his smile gentle. "Just keep showing up. For you, for Michaela." They parted ways, but his words clung to her. That night, in her quiet apartment, Sarah opened her laptop, Michaela asleep beside her. She worked on the group project, tweaking the design, adding a feature for job alerts. Her fingers flew, fueled by a mix of determination and something new, belief. Ethan's faith in her wasn't just words. It was a challenge to rise. The next week, the group project took shape. Sarah's design became the centerpiece, her bold colors and intuitive layout earning praise from Denise. "You've got a gift," she said, reviewing their code. "This could actually work in the real world." Sarah beamed, but doubt lingered. Could she really build something lasting? Ethan's visits grew more frequent, often under the guise of checking on the showcase preparations. He'd sit with her group, offering tips or sharing stories of his first app, a clunky budgeting tool he coded at 17 in a shelter's computer lab. "It crashed every other day," he laughed, "but it got me noticed." Sarah listened, drawn to his vulnerability. He wasn't the untouchable billionaire from billboards. He was a man who'd fought for every step, just like her. One afternoon, as they tested the project's interactivity, Ethan sat beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. "You ever think about where this could take you?" he asked, his voice low. "Not just a job, but bigger, leading teams, designing apps that change lives." Sarah's fingers paused on the keyboard. The idea was intoxicating, but terrifying. "I don't know," she admitted. "I'm just trying to keep my head above water." "You're doing more than that," he said, his gaze steady. "You're building something. Don't sell yourself short." The moment stretched, charged with unspoken possibility. Sarah looked away, focusing on the screen, but her heart raced. Was this just encouragement or something more? She wasn't ready to explore that question, not when Michaela's future depended on her staying focused. As the showcase neared, Sarah threw herself into the project, working late nights. She and her group polished every detail, their job board now a sleek prototype with real potential. The night before the event, Ethan texted, "You nervous? You've got this." Sarah smiled, typing back, "Maybe, thanks for the pep talk." The showcase day arrived, a Saturday filled with nervous energy. The TechBridge hub was packed. Students, instructors, local business owners, even a few reporters. Sarah's group presented their job board, her voice steady as she explained its features. The crowd applauded, and Denise pulled her aside. Ethan's right about you, she said. You're going places. Afterward, Ethan found her by the refreshment table, Michaela on her hip. Told you, he said, grinning. You killed it. Sarah laughed, the tension easing. We all did. Thanks for pushing me. Any time, he said, his eyes holding hers a beat too long. She felt that pull again, stronger now, but pushed it down. This was about her future, not her heart. As she left the hub, Michaela babbled in her arms. Sarah felt lighter. The warehouse was a fading memory, replaced by code, community, and a flicker of hope. Ethan's belief in her was a gift, but it was her own strength carrying her forward. What's a moment when someone's belief in you changed your path? Share below and let's inspire each other. Spring crept into Chicago, softening the city's edges with budding trees and warmer breezes. But Sarah Mitchell's world still felt like it teetered on a knife's edge. The TechBridge Community Hub had become her anchor, a place where her days were filled with the click of keyboards and the hum of possibility. 3 months into the training program, she was no longer just a student. She was a standout, her group's job board project from the showcase now a prototype being considered for real-world implementation. Denise, the instructor, had pulled her aside last week, her eyes gleaming with pride. You're not just coding, Sarah. You're creating solutions. That's rare. The words lit a fire in Sarah, but they also stoked a fear she couldn't shake. What if this all fell apart? Her apartment in Bronzeville was a haven, its walls now adorned with sketches of app interfaces and post-it notes of JavaScript snippets. Michaela's crib sat by the window, surrounded by toys donated by TechBridge volunteers. At 4 months old, Michaela was thriving. Her giggles filled the small space, her big brown eyes tracking Sarah's every move. Yet, each night, as Sarah tucked her daughter in, a familiar dread crept in. Stability felt fragile, like a house of cards waiting for a gust. Her past, evictions, betrayal, the warehouse, loomed like a shadow, whispering that this new life was too good to last. Ethan Brooks was part of that shadow, though not in the way she expected. His presence at TechBridge was constant, his encouragement unwavering. He'd sit with her during lunch breaks, sharing tips on debugging code or stories of his early failures. My first startup tanked so hard I had to sell my car, he'd said last week, laughing. Thought I'd never recover. His candor disarmed her, peeling back the billionaire veneer to reveal a man who'd fought battles not unlike her own. But it was his attention, those lingering glances, the way his voice softened when he said her name, that stirred something dangerous. Sarah felt the pull, a warmth that threatened to blur the lines between gratitude and something deeper. She couldn't afford that. Not now, when every step forward was for Michaela. Today, as Sarah pushed Michaela's stroller into the TechBridge hub, the air buzzed with a different energy. Students whispered in clusters, their faces tense. Jamal caught her eye, waving her over. You here? He said, his voice low. Big investor meeting today. Ethan's pitching the job board prototype to some heavy hitters. If it lands, we might get funding to make it real. Sarah's stomach flipped. Our project? For real. Yup. Maria chimed in, joining them. Denise says they're talking about rolling it out citywide. Your design's a star, Sarah. Pride swelled, but so did pressure. If the project succeeded, it could mean a job, a future. If it failed, she shook off the thought, focusing on the day's lesson, APIs and data integration. Her group was tasked with linking their job board to a mock database, a step toward making it functional. Sarah dove in, her fingers flying over the keyboard, but her mind kept drifting to Ethan's meeting. What if he was betting too much on her? What if she let him down? At noon, Ethan appeared in the training room, his usual easy smile replaced by a taut expression. He wore a tailored blazer, his hair neatly combed, a stark contrast to his usual casual vibe. Got a sec, Sarah? He asked, nodding to her quiet corner. She followed, her heart thudding. How'd the meeting go? Ethan ran a hand through his hair, a rare sign of frustration. Mixed. They love the prototype, your design especially, but they're hesitant. Want more data, more proof it'll scale. I've got another shot next week, but it's high stakes. Sarah nodded, her throat tight. What can I do? Just keep doing what you're doing, he said, his eyes locking onto hers. Your work's the heart of this. I'm not worried about them. I'm confident in you. His faith was a lifeline, but it also felt like a weight. She managed a smile. Thanks. I'll try not to screw it up. You won't, he said, his voice firm. Then softer. You're tougher than you think, Sarah. The moment hung between them, charged with unspoken tension. She broke eye contact, focusing on Michaela strolling nearby. I should get back, she said, retreating to safer ground. The rest of the day passed in a blur of code and coffee. Sarah's group made progress on the API, but her thoughts kept circling back to Ethan. His confidence in her was a gift, but also scared her. She'd spent so long relying only on herself. Trusting someone else felt like stepping onto thin ice. That evening, as she walked home with Michaela, the city felt alive. Kids playing on sidewalks, music spilling from open windows. Sarah's mind churned. Ethan's past, his childhood in shelters, mirrored her own struggles in ways she hadn't expected. He wasn't just a billionaire throwing money at problems. He was someone who'd lived them. That made his help feel less like charity, more like partnership. But partnership came with risks. What if she started to need him? Not just his resources, but him. At home, she settled Michaela in her crib and opened her laptop. The job board prototype glowed on the screen, its clean lines and vibrant colors a testament to her growth. She tweaked the button's hover effect, losing herself in the work. A text from Ethan popped up. Nail the API today? You're killing it. She smiled, typing back. Getting there? Thanks for the vote of confidence. The next day, Denise announced a new phase, mentorship. Students would pair with TechBridge staff to guide local teens through coding workshops. Sarah was assigned to a group of high schoolers, a mix of shy and outspoken kids from Englewood. The idea thrilled her. She'd always loved teaching, even if it was just helping her younger cousins with homework years ago. But it also meant working closely with Ethan, who was leading the mentorship program. Their first session was chaos. The teens were skeptical, some scrolling on phones, others cracking jokes. Sarah stood at the front, her nerves jangling, but Ethan's calm presence steadied her. Show them what you built, he said, nodding toward the job board demo. Sarah pulled it up, walking the kids through its features, job listings, alerts, a chat function for mentors. One girl, Tiana, with braids and sharp gaze, raised her hand. You made this? Like from nothing? Pretty much, Sarah said, a smile tugging at her lips. I was learning just like you are now. Tiana's eyes widened. That's dope. Can you teach me? The question sparked something in Sarah, a sense of purpose she hadn't felt before. By the end of the session, the teens were engaged, asking questions, even sketching their own app ideas. Ethan watched from the back, his smile proud. You're a natural, he said later, as they cleaned up. Those kids see themselves in you. Sarah shrugged, but her chest warmed. They're good kids. Just need someone to believe in them. Like someone believed in you? He asked, his tone teasing but pointed. She met his gaze, her guard slipping. Yeah, like that. Their eyes held, the air thick with possibility. Sarah's heart raced, but she stepped back, grabbing Michaela's stroller. Gotta go, she said, her voice too quick. Ethan nodded, letting her retreat, but his expression said he wasn't giving up. Over the next weeks, the mentorship program became Sarah's favorite part of TechBridge. She connected with Tiana and the others, sharing her story, eviction, the warehouse, her fight to rise. The teens listened, their skepticism fading. Tiana, especially, latched onto Sarah, asking for design tips and confessing her own dreams of becoming a game developer. Sarah saw her younger self in the girl's fierce ambition, and it fueled her own drive. But the investor meeting loomed, a cloud over her progress. Ethan was optimistic, but Sarah sensed stress, late-night texts, distracted glances. If the funding fell through, the job board and her role in it could stall. Her future, so close to solidifying, felt fragile again. One evening, as they prepped for the next mentorship session, Ethan pulled her aside. I've got an idea, he said, his eyes bright. What if we bring the teens to the investor pitch? Show them the real impact, your project, your story. Sarah hesitated. Me? I'm not a speaker. You are, he insisted. You're real. That's what they need to see. The idea terrified her, but his belief was infectious. She nodded, her resolve hardening. Okay, let's do it. As she walked home that night, Michaela asleep in her stroller, Sarah felt a shift. The warehouse was a distant memory, but its lessons lingered. Resilience, survival, hope. Ethan's faith was pushing her to new heights, but it was her own strength carrying her forward. What's a time someone's belief in you made you braver than you thought you could be? Share below and let's keep the inspiration flowing. The TechBridge Community Hub was a hive of anticipation as April's warmth seeped into Chicago, melting the last traces of winter's grip. Sarah Mitchell stood in front of a mirror in the Hub's small staff room, smoothing the creases of a navy blazer she'd borrowed from Maria. It was her first time wearing anything this polished in months, and the reflection staring back felt like a stranger, stronger maybe, but still haunted by the ghost of that warehouse night. Tonight was the investor pitch, the one Ethan Brooks had pinned so much hope on, and Sarah was part of it. Not just part. Center stage, presenting the job board prototype she'd helped build, alongside a group of teens she'd mentored. Her stomach churned. What if she froze? What if she let Ethan down, let herself down? Michaela cooed from her stroller in the corner, her tiny hands waving as if cheering her mother on. Sarah smiled, drawing strength from those big brown eyes. We're doing this for you, baby girl, she whispered, adjusting the blanket around her daughter. The past 4 months had transformed Sarah's life. An apartment, tech training, a community that saw her potential, but tonight felt like a crucible. The job board wasn't just a project. It was a lifeline, a chance to turn her skills into a real job, maybe even a career. If the investors funded it, TechBridge could roll out across Chicago, creating opportunities for people like her. If they didn't, Sarah pushed the thought away. Failure wasn't an option. The Hub's main room was set up for the pitch, with rows of chairs facing a projector screen. Ethan had transformed the space, stringing up soft lights and displaying posters of TechBridge success stories, former students now working as coders, designers, tech support. Sarah's job board prototype glowed on the screen, its clean interface and vibrant colors a testament to her growing skill. She'd poured hours into refining it, tweaking the code late at night while Michaela slept, blending her love for design with newfound technical prowess. Tiana, the sharp-eyed teen from her mentorship group, had helped with feedback, suggesting features like a resume builder for young job seekers. Make it so kids like us can shine, Tiana had said, her voice fierce. Sarah had listened, and now their work was about to face the scrutiny of Chicago's elite. Ethan entered, his presence calming the room's nervous energy. He wore a tailored suit, but his tie was slightly askew, a hidden man beneath the billionaire facade. Ready? He asked, his blue eyes finding Sarah's. His smile was encouraging, but she caught the tension in his jaw. This pitch wasn't just about her project. It was about TechBridge's future, his vision for community empowerment. As I'll ever be, Sarah replied, forcing a smile. Her hands trembled slightly, and she tucked them into her pockets. Tiana and 2 other teens, Malik and Jada, stood nearby, their faces a mix of excitement and nerves. They'd been prepped to share their experiences, to show the investors the human impact of TechBridge work. Sarah felt a surge of pride in them, but also responsibility. She was their mentor, their voice tonight. The investors arrived, 6 men and women in sharp suits, their expressions guarded. Ethan greeted them, his charisma on full display as he outlined TechBridge's mission. We're not just teaching tech, he said, his voice steady. We're building bridges out of poverty, out of despair. This job board, created by our students, is proof of what's possible when you invest in potential. Sarah's turn came too soon. She stepped to the front, her heart pounding so loud she was sure the room could hear it. The screen displayed her prototype, and she took a deep breath, channeling the strength she'd found in the warehouse, shielding Michaela from the cold. I'm Sarah Mitchell, she began, her voice steadier than she expected. 6 months ago, I was homeless, living in a warehouse with my daughter, fighting to survive. TechBridge gave me a chance to rebuild, not just my life, but my purpose. This job board is for people like me, and for kids like Tiana, Malik, and Jada who deserve a shot at future. She walked through the prototype's features: job listings tailored for youth, a mentorship chat, a clean design that worked on any device. The teen spoke next, Tiana's passion stealing the show as she described designing the resume builder. "This isn't just an app," Tiana said, her braids swinging as she gestured. "It's a way for us to be seen." The investors nodded, some jotting notes, others leaning forward. Sarah felt a spark of hope. But as the Q&A began, the mood shifted. A gray-haired investor, Mr. Caldwell, raised his hand. "Impressive," he said, his tone clipped. "But scaling this citywide is ambitious. What's the infrastructure? The cost projections? And, frankly, can a team of beginners pull this off?" Sarah's chest tightened, the word beginners stinging. Ethan stepped in, his voice calm but firm. "Our team has already built a functional prototype, as you've seen. We've got partnerships with local businesses for job listings, and our cost projections are conservative but scalable. Sarah and her team are beginners. They're innovators." Caldwell's eyes narrowed, unconvinced. Another investor, a woman named Ms. Rivera, spoke up. "I love the passion, but passion doesn't pay bills. What's the long-term ROI?" Sarah felt the room tilt, but Tiana's fierce gaze steadied her. She spoke before Ethan could. "The ROI is people like me working, contributing, not stuck in a cycle of poverty," she said, her voice raw. "I was sleeping on a warehouse floor 4 months ago. Now I'm building tools to help others. That's the return. Lives changed." The room fell silent, the investors exchanging glances. Ethan's eyes met Sarah's, a flicker of pride in them. The pitch ended with polite applause, but Caldwell's skepticism lingered like a storm cloud. As the investors left, Ethan pulled Sarah aside. "You were incredible," he said, his hand brushing her arm. "You and the kids, they felt you." "Did they?" Sarah asked, doubt creeping in. Caldwell didn't seem sold. "He's one voice," Ethan said. "We've got time to win them over. Trust me." She wanted to, but trust was a muscle she hadn't exercised in years. Still, his confidence was infectious, and she nodded. "Okay, what's next?" "Refine the prototype, add data to back our claims," he said. "I'll handle the numbers. You focus on the vision." That night, Sarah sat at her kitchen table, Michaela asleep in her crib. The laptop glowed with the job board's code, but her mind was on Ethan. His touch, brief as it was, had sent a jolt through her. She wasn't blind. His interest was clear, not just in her work, but in her. The thought thrilled and terrified her. She'd been burned before, trusting the wrong person, losing everything. Ethan was different, but was he safe? Her heart wanted to lean in, but her head screamed caution. The next day, she threw herself into Prototype, adding analytics to track user engagement, a feature suggested by Denise. Tiana and the teens helped, their energy infectious. "We're going to make Caldwell eat his words," Tiana declared, and Sarah laughed, her spirits lifting. Ethan joined them late in the afternoon, his tie gone, sleeves rolled up. He sat beside Sarah, reviewing her code. "This is next level," he said, his voice low. "You're not just good, you're exceptional." Her cheeks warmed, but she kept her eyes on the screen. "Just doing my part," she said, dodging the intensity in his gaze. "You're doing more than that," he said, his tone softer. "You're inspiring people, Sarah, me included." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. She glanced at him, his face close, his eyes searching hers. For a moment, she let herself imagine what it would be like to close that distance, to let go of her walls. But Michaela's giggle from the daycare room snapped her back. "I should check on her," she said, standing quickly. Ethan nodded, his expression unreadable. "Of course." As she walked away, Sarah felt the weight of her choices. Ethan was offering more than a job, more than a home. He was offering a partnership, professional and maybe personal. But could she risk her heart when her daughter's future was at stake? The warehouse had taught her resilience, but this trust connection was a new kind of courage. What's a moment when you had to choose between playing it safe and taking a leap of faith? Share below and let's keep conversation going. The TechBridge Community Hub glowed under the soft May sunlight, its glass facade reflecting a city alive with spring's promise. Inside, Sarah Mitchell sat at a workstation, her fingers hovering over her laptop as she debugged a line of JavaScript for the job board prototype. The past month had been a whirlwind, refining the app, mentoring teens, and preparing for the follow-up investor pitch. Her skills were sharpening, her confidence growing, but a quiet unease simmered beneath it all. The hub, her lifeline, felt like a dream she could wake from at any moment. Michaela, now 5 months old, babbled happily in the daycare room, her laughter a reminder of why Sarah pushed so hard. But the higher she climbed, the further she had to fall. The investor pitch last month had ended on a fragile note. Mr. Caldwell's skepticism had lingered, but Ethan Brooks had rallied, securing a second meeting for today. He'd spent weeks crunching numbers, building a case for the job board scalability, while Sarah and her team, Tiana, Malik, and Jada, added features like user analytics and a mobile-friendly interface. Their work was solid, but Caldwell's words still echoed in Sarah's mind. Can a team of beginners pull this off? She wasn't a beginner anymore, but doubt was a stubborn shadow. Ethan strode into the training room, his usual energy tempered by a tightness around his eyes. He wore a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up, and carried a tablet loaded with their presentation. "Ready for the big day?" he asked, stopping by Sarah's desk. His smile was warm, but she caught the strain beneath it. "As ready as I'll get," Sarah said, closing her laptop. She stood, smoothing her borrowed blazer, her heart thudding. Tiana and the teens were already waiting by the conference room, their nervous excitement palpable. "The kids are pumped," she added, nodding toward them. "They should be," Ethan said. "This is their moment, too. You've done incredible work with them." Sarah's cheeks warmed at the praise, but she kept her tone light. "Just following your lead, Mr. Billionaire." He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Let's hope the investors see it that way." The conference room was starkly professional, a contrast to the hub's vibrant chaos. The investors filed in, Mr. Caldwell, Ms. Rivera, and 4 others, their faces unreadable. Ethan opened with a polished pitch, highlighting TechBridge's impact. 80% of graduates employed, 200 teens mentored, and now, the job board, a tool to connect underserved youth with opportunities. Sarah followed, her voice steady as she demoed the app's new features. Tiana spoke last, her passion electric, as she shared how TechBridge had given her purpose. "This app isn't just code," she said. "It's a way out." The investors nodded, some smiling, but Caldwell's expression remained cold. When Q&A began, he leaned forward, his voice sharp. "The prototype's improved, but scaling requires infrastructure, servers, support staff, maintenance. Your numbers are optimistic, Brooks. Too optimistic." Ethan didn't flinch. "We've secured partnerships with 3 local tech firms for server access, and our staff is lean but trained. The numbers hold." Rivera chimed in, her tone softer but probing. "And if funding dries up, what's the contingency?" Sarah's stomach twisted. She glanced at Ethan, who met her eyes briefly, a silent reassurance. "We're exploring grants and crowdfunding," he said. "But this project's impact, jobs, skills, hope, is worth the investment." The meeting ended with cautious optimism, but Caldwell's parting words chilled Sarah. "Passion's nice, but markets don't run on it." As the investors left, Ethan's shoulders sagged, a rare crack in his confidence. Sarah approached him, Tiana at her side. "We did good, right?" Tiana asked, her voice small. "You were amazing," Ethan said, forcing a smile. "All of you." But later, in his office, Ethan's facade crumbled. Sarah had stopped by to drop off a revised code file, Michaela asleep in her stroller. Ethan was at his desk, staring at his tablet, his face drawn. "Caldwell's pulling out," he said without looking up. "Just got the email. He's spooked by the risk. Says it's not a safe bet." Sarah's heart sank. "The whole project?" "Not yet," Ethan said, rubbing his temples. "But he's 40% of our funding. Without him, we're looking at cuts, program staff, maybe even the job board." The words hit like a punch. Sarah's job, her future, the teens' hopes, all teetered on the edge. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan looked at her, his blue eyes fierce. "We fight. I'm not letting this fall apart. Not for you, not for the kids." His determination stirred something in Sarah, but so did fear. She'd built a life here, classes, mentorship, a flicker of hope. Losing it would be like the warehouse all over again. "I can help," she said, surprising herself. "I know people, Jamal, Maria, the community. We can rally them." Ethan's gaze softened, a mix of gratitude and something deeper. "I knew you'd say that. You're not just a student, Sarah. You're a leader." The word felt foreign, but it ignited a spark. Over the next days, Sarah threw herself into action. She met with Jamal and Maria, brainstorming ways to save the project. "Crowdfunding," Jamal suggested. "Get the community involved. People know TechBridge. They'll back it." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. "And local businesses. They've seen what we do. They might chip in." Maria grinned. "You're thinking like a boss, Sarah." The idea took shape, a community campaign to replace Caldwell's funding. Sarah spent evenings designing a crowdfunding page, her design skills shining, as she crafted a sleek, emotional pitch. She recorded a video with Tiana and the teens, sharing their stories: poverty, struggle, hope. "This isn't just an app," Sarah said into the camera, her voice steady. "It's a lifeline for people like me, like these kids. Help us keep it alive." Ethan helped spread the word, leveraging his network to amplify the campaign. He and Sarah worked late, their collaboration seamless but charged. One night, as they reviewed analytics in his office, their hands brushed over a tablet. Sarah froze, the air thick with tension. "Sorry," she mumbled, pulling back. "Don't be," Ethan said, his voice low. His eyes held hers, unguarded, and for a moment, she saw not the billionaire, but the man who'd carried her from a warehouse. Her heart raced, but fear won out. She stood, grabbing her bag. "I should check on Michaela." He nodded, letting her go, but his gaze lingered. Sarah's walls were cracking, and it terrified her. She'd sworn never to depend on anyone again, but Ethan wasn't just anyone. He was a partner, a believer in her strength. Still, love, or whatever this was, felt like a risk she couldn't take. The campaign gained traction. Local businesses donated, coffee shops, barbers, even a tech startup Ethan knew. The crowdfunding page hit 20% of its goal in a week, fueled by shares on social media. Tiana's video went viral locally, her passion resonating. But it wasn't enough. They needed a bigger push. Sarah suggested a community event, a launch party to showcase the job board and rally support. Ethan loved it, offering the hub as the venue. They planned feverishly, Sarah coordinating volunteers, while Ethan secured sponsors. The work brought them closer, their late-night planning sessions filled with laughter and shared dreams. One evening, as they hung posters, Ethan paused, his voice soft. "You're changing things, Sarah. Not just for you, but for everyone here." She met his gaze, her guard slipping. "You started this. I'm just following through." "No," he said, stepping closer. "You're leading." The moment stretched, her heart pounding. She wanted to lean in to let go, but Michaela's cry from the daycare broke the spell. Sarah stepped back, her walls snapping up. "I should go," she said, her voice shaky. Ethan nodded, his expression unreadable. "We'll get there," he said. And she wasn't sure if he meant the campaign or something more. As the event neared, Sarah felt a mix of hope and dread. The campaign was at 50%, but they needed more. The hub, the teens, her future, it all hung in the balance. The warehouse had taught her to survive, but this fight was about thriving. Could she rise to it? What's a time you fought for something bigger than yourself? Share below and let's keep the momentum going. June's warmth bathed Chicago in a golden haze, the city's pulse quickening as summer loomed. The TechBridge Community Hub was a whirlwind of preparation, its glass walls plastered with flyers for the upcoming community launch event, a make-or-break moment to save the job board project and secure the hub's future. Sarah Mitchell stood at the center of it all, her laptop open on a cluttered table, coordinating volunteers, sponsors, and a growing crowdfunding campaign. Michaela, now 6 months old, bounced in a playpen nearby. Her giggles a bright counterpoint to the tension in the air. Sarah's dark eyes, one shadowed by fear, burned with determination. The warehouse night felt like a lifetime ago, but its lessons fueled her now. She'd survived the worst. She could fight for the best. The investor pullout had shaken TechBridge to its core. Mr. Caldwell's exit left a $2 million hole in the budget, threatening not just a job board but the hub's programs, coding classes, mentorship, childcare. Sarah's job, her future, hung in the balance, as did the hopes of Tiana, Malik, Jada, and dozens of others. But Sarah refused to let it crumble. Her crowdfunding campaign, launched with a viral video featuring Tiana's raw story, had raised 60% of the goal, $1.2 million, in 2 weeks. Local businesses chipped in, from mom-and-pop shops to a tech startup Ethan knew, but it wasn't enough. The launch event, set for tomorrow, was their last shot to rally the community and close the gap. Sarah's days blurred into a frenzy of work. She designed her emotional graphics, blending her artistic roots with her new coding skills, creating posters that popped with color and hope. She coordinated with Jamal and Maria, who rallied volunteers, and worked with Tiana's mentorship group to prep a live demo of the job board. The teens were electric, their pride in the project contagious. "We're going to show them what we got," Tiana said, her braids swinging as she tested the app's new resume builder. Sarah smiled, but the weight of responsibility pressed hard. This wasn't just about her. It was about every kid who saw themselves in that app, every family like hers fighting for a way out. Ethan Brooks was her constant partner in the chaos, his energy a steady anchor. He secured sponsors, negotiated with vendors, and amplified the campaign on social media, his 2 million followers boosting their reach. But Sarah noticed a strain in him. Late-night texts, dark circles under his blue eyes. He was fighting for TechBridge as fiercely as she was. But there was more to it. His past, his mother's struggles in shelters, drove him. Sarah saw in the way he lingered after meetings, sharing stories of his mom's resilience. "She'd have loved this," he'd said yesterday, gesturing to Hub. "She never gave up, even when the world did." His words echoed Sarah's own fight, and their shared purpose deepened their bond. Late-night planning sessions in his office, poring over budgets and event logistics, were filled with laughter and glances that lingered too long. Sarah felt the pull, stronger now, undeniable, but she kept her walls up. Trust was a risk, and Michaela's future came first. Still, Ethan's belief in her was a fire, warming the parts of her she thought frozen forever. Tonight, the hub was quiet, the calm before the storm. Sarah and Ethan worked alone, hanging string lights of the event. Michaela slept in her playpen, her soft snores blending with the hum of the city outside. Sarah stood on a ladder, pinning a banner, when Ethan handed her a string of bulbs. Their fingers brushed, and she froze, the air charged. "You're nervous about tomorrow," he said, not a question, his voice soft. Sarah stepped down, meeting his gaze. "Aren't you? This is everything. Your vision, my future, the kids' dreams." He nodded, his expression raw. "I am, but I'm not worried about you. You've got this, Sarah. You're the heart of it." Her throat tightened. His faith was a lifeline, but it also scared her. What if I'm not enough? What if we don't hit the goal? Ethan stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "You're more than enough. You've been through hell and came out stronger. This event, it's not just about money. It's about showing the world what you can do." The intensity in his voice cracked something in her. She wanted to believe him, to lean into the connection sparking between them, but fear held her back. "I'm doing this for Michaela," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't afford to mess up." "You won't," he said, his hand hovering near hers, not touching but close enough to feel the warmth. "And you're not alone. We're in this together." The moment stretched, heavy with possibility. Sarah's heart raced, but Michaela's soft cry broke the spell. She stepped back, turning to her daughter. "I should get her home," she said, her voice shaky. Ethan nodded, his eyes holding a quiet promise. "Tomorrow's going to be big. Get some rest." At home, Sarah tucked Michaela into her crib, her mind racing. The event was a gamble, but it was hers to win. She opened her laptop, checking the crowdfunding page. $1.3 million now, climbing slowly. She posted an update, her words raw. This isn't just an app. It's a second chance for me, for my daughter, for kids who've been counted out. Join us tomorrow to make it real. She hit send, her heart pounding, and fell into a restless sleep. The launch event dawned bright and chaotic. The hub buzzed with volunteers setting up tables, local bands tuning instruments, and food trucks lining the street outside. Sarah wore a simple black dress, her curls loose, feeling both out of place and exactly where she belonged. Tiana and the teens were in TechBridge t-shirts, demoing the job board to early arrivals. The crowd grew, community leaders, former students, families, even reporters drawn by the campaign's buzz. Sarah took the stage, her knees trembling but her voice steady. 6 months ago, I was homeless, holding my daughter in a warehouse. Thinking we wouldn't make it, she began, the crowd hushing. TechBridge gave me a chance, not just to survive, but to build. This job board is for every kid who feels invisible, every parent fighting for better. We need you to make it real. Tiana followed, her passion igniting the room. This app's for us, she said, gesturing to Malik and Jada. We built it, and it's going to help kids like us get jobs, get hope. The crowd erupted, donations pouring in via the crowdfunding app projected on a screen. Ethan closed the event, his voice carrying the weight of his past. I grew up in shelters, like Sarah, like many of you. TechBridge isn't just my dream, it's ours. Let's keep it alive. He locked eyes with Sarah, a silent vow. By night's end, the crowdfunding total hit $1.8 million. Not enough to replace Caldwell's funding, but close. Businesses pledged more, and a local church matched $100,000. The hub was safe for now. Sarah hugged Tiana, tears in her eyes. We did it, she whispered. Ethan found her in the crowd, his smile wide but tired. You were incredible, he said, his hand brushing her arm. This is just the start. Sarah nodded, her heart full but wary. The fight wasn't over, but she'd proven something. To the community, to Ethan, to herself. The warehouse was a memory, replaced by a fire within her. Could she keep it burning? What's a moment when you fought for a dream and won, even if just for a day? Share below and let's keep the fire alive. The summer sun bathed Chicago in a relentless glow, turning the TechBridge Community Hub into a beacon of hope as July unfolded. Inside, Sarah Mitchell stood at a whiteboard, sketching an updated interface of the job board, now officially funded and set for a citywide rollout. The launch event a month ago had been a triumph, raising $2.1 million through crowdfunding, local business pledges, and a last-minute grant Ethan Brooks had secured. The hub was safe, its programs thriving, and Sarah's role had shifted from student to part-time staff, mentoring teens and refining the app alongside TechBridge developers. Michaela, now 7 months old, crawled in the daycare room, her laughter echoing to the glass walls. Sarah's life felt like a miracle, but miracles, she knew, could be fragile. Her days were a whirlwind of purpose. Mornings meant coding sessions, tweaking the job board's backend to handle more users. Afternoons were for mentoring Tiana and her crew, who were now building their own mini-apps. Evenings, she collapsed in her Bronzeville apartment, Michaela asleep, her laptop glowing with new ideas. The job board was live in beta, connecting dozens of teens to local jobs, barista gigs, retail, even a few tech internships. Tiana had landed a part-time role at a game studio, her dream taking shape. You did this, she told Sarah, her eyes shining. But Sarah shook her head. We did this. Ethan was a constant in her orbit, his presence both steadying and unsettling. He was no longer just a billionaire who'd saved her from the warehouse. He was a partner, a collaborator, his vision intertwined with hers. They worked closely, their meetings filled with debates over features and laughs over coffee. But there was a tension now, unspoken but palpable. His glances lingered, his voice softened when he said her name, and Sarah felt the pull, stronger, more insistent. She'd catch herself smiling at his texts, her heart racing when he stood too close. But love was a risk, and Sarah's past had taught her to guard her heart. Michaela's father had been charming once, too, until he vanished. Ethan was different, but was he safe? Today, the hub buzzed with a new project. A youth summit to showcase the job board and train more teens across Chicago. Sarah was leading the app demo, a role that thrilled and terrified her. She stood in the training room, practicing her presentation with Tiana and Malik, who become her unofficial co-leads. Make it real, Tiana advised, tweaking a slide. Tell them how it changed us. Sarah nodded, her nerves jangling. The summit was tomorrow, and Ethan had invited city officials, tech leaders, and media. It was her biggest stage yet, a chance to cement her place at TechBridge and in Ethan's world. But doubt crept in. Was she ready for this? Could she carry the weight of so many eyes? Ethan entered, carrying a stack of flyers, his sleeves rolled up, a bead of sweat on his brow. Looking good, he said, eyeing the slides. You're going to kill it tomorrow. Sarah managed a smile, her stomach twisting. Hope so. Don't want to let anyone down. You won't, he said, his tone firm. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Sarah, you've already done more than most. This summit, it's your moment. His words warmed her, but they also stirred fear. What if I'm not enough? She asked, her voice barely audible. This is big, Ethan. Bigger than me. He shook his head, his blue eyes intense. It's not bigger than you. You're the one who made this real. Your story, your fight. I believe in you. Always have. The air thickened, charged with more than just words. Sarah's breath caught, her walls trembling. She wanted to lean into his faith, to let herself feel what was growing between them. But Michaela's giggle from the daycare snapped her back. I should check on her, she said, stepping away. Ethan nodded, his expression a mix of understanding and quiet resolve. Tomorrow's going to be big, he said. Get some rest. That night, Sarah sat in her apartment, the city's filtering through her window. Michaela slept, clutching a stuffed bear Ethan had given her. Sarah opened her laptop, reviewing the summit slides, but her mind was on Ethan. His belief in her was a gift, but it came with a question she couldn't ignore. What did she want? A job, a future, yes, but him? The thought thrilled and terrified her. She'd built her life back from nothing, brick by brick. Could she risk adding love to that foundation? The summit dawned bright. The hub transformed into a festival of tech and hope. Booths lined the halls, showcasing student projects. Music pulsed from a local band. Sarah wore a teal dress, her curls loose, feeling like a leader but fighting imposter syndrome. Tiana and Malik flanked her, their confidence bolstering hers. The main room was packed. City council members, tech CEOs, reporters, and hundreds of teens from across Chicago. Sarah took the stage, her heart pounding but her voice steady. I'm Sarah Mitchell, she began, the mic amplifying her words. A year ago, I was homeless, holding my daughter in a warehouse, thinking we'd never make it. TechBridge gave me a chance to build not just an app, but a life. This job board is for every kid who feels invisible, every dreamer who needs a start. She demoed the app, its interface sleek and vibrant, showing live data, 150 users, 40 jobs filled. Tiana and Malik shared their stories, their voices raw and powerful. The crowd erupted, phones flashing as donations rolled in via a live crowdfunding ticker. By the end, the summit had raised $200,000 for expansion, and a tech firm pledged servers for the app's rollout. Ethan closed the event, his pride evident as he praised Sarah and the teens. This is what TechBridge is about, he said, his eyes finding hers. People like Sarah, Tiana, and Malik, building bridges to a better future. After, as the crowd mingled, Ethan pulled Sarah aside, his hand warm on her arm. You were phenomenal, he said, his voice low. I knew you would be. Sarah's cheeks flushed, her heart racing. We all were, she said, but her eyes held his, the tension between them electric. For a moment, she let herself feel it, the possibility, the pull. But fear surged, and she stepped back. I need to check on Michaela, she said, her voice unsteady. He nodded, his gaze soft but unwavering. I'm not going anywhere, he said, and she knew he meant more than the summit. That night, Sarah sat on her couch, Michaela asleep, the city's lights twinkling outside. The summit had been a victory, her place at TechBridge secure. But Ethan's words echoed, "I'm not going anywhere." Her heart wanted to believe him, to let go, but her past whispered caution. The warehouse had taught her to survive. TechBridge was teaching her to thrive. Could she learn to love, too? What's a moment when you face a choice between fear and possibility? Share below and let's keep building bridges. August draped Chicago in a sultry haze, the city's skyline shimmering against a cloudless sky. The old warehouse on 47th and Halstead, one the crumbling relic of Sarah Mitchell's darkest night, stood transformed, a gleaming TechBridge community hub, its glass walls reflecting the vibrant life within. Inside, the air buzzed with the hum of computers, the laughter of teens, and the promise of new beginnings. Sarah stood in the main hall, her dark eyes tracing the space where she'd once huddled under a tarp, gasping for air, shielding McKellar from the cold. Now, 8 months later, that same space was alive with light, adored with string lights and photos of TechBridge's journey. Snapshot of her, Tiana, Malik, and countless others who'd found hope here. McKellar, now 8 months old, babbled in her stroller, her tiny hands clutching a toy, her presence a reminder why Sarah had fought so hard. The job board project, born from her prototype, was a city-wide success. Over 500 teens had found jobs through it. Baristas, coders, retail clerks, each placement a testament to Sarah's vision and resilience. She transitioned from student to full-time staff, leading the app's development and mentoring a new cohort of teens. Tiana was her right hand, now interning at a game studio and dreaming of her own startup. The hub's programs thrived, funded by the community campaign, and new grants Ethan Brooks had secured. Sarah's life was unrecognizable from that January night, yet the scars of her past, eviction, abandonment, the warehouse, lingered, making every victory feel like a fragile gift. Ethan was the heartbeat of that transformation, his belief in her a constant through the chaos. Their partnership had deepened over months, their late-night planning sessions evolving into moments of shared vulnerability. He'd told her more about his past, his mother's death, his years hustling in tech, the loneliness behind his success. Sarah had shared her own wounds, her family's rejection, McKellar's father's betrayal. Their stories wove together, binding them in ways she hadn't anticipated. But the spark between them, undeniable now, was a fire she kept at bay. Love was a leap she wasn't sure she could take, not when McKellar's stability depended on her caution. Tonight, the hub was hosting a celebration, a ribbon cutting for an official opening as TechBridge's flagship center. The hall was packed with community members, city officials, and TechBridge alumni, all gathered to honor the hub's impact. Sarah wore a simple emerald dress, her curls loose, her nerves humming as she prepared to speak. She'd been asked to share her story, a daunting task, but Ethan's encouragement echoed in her mind. "You're the heart of this, Sarah." As she mingled, shaking hands with donors and hugging Tiana, Ethan approached, his blue eyes bright in a tailored navy suit. "Ready to steal the show?" he asked, his smile warm but laced with something deeper. Sarah laughed, smoothing her dress. "I'll settle for not tripping over my words." "You won't," he said, his voice low. "You never do." His gaze held hers, charged with the tension that had grown between them. Sarah felt it, the pull, the possibility, but pushed it down, focusing on the event. The crowd settled, and she took the stage, her heart pounding. The lights dimmed, a spotlight framing her. 8 months ago, I was in this very building, she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. Not as a speaker, but as a mother fighting to keep my daughter alive. I was homeless, freezing, my lungs failing from asthma. I thought we'd die here. But someone saw us, Ethan Brooks. He didn't just save us. He gave us a chance to build a future. She paused, her eyes finding Ethan in the crowd, his expression raw with pride. This hub, this job board, this community, it's not just about tech. It's about seeing the unseen, believing in the overlooked. I was invisible once, but not anymore. And neither are the kids we serve. The crowd erupted, their applause shaking the walls. Tiana and Malik joined her, sharing their own stories, their voices carrying the same fire. As Sarah stepped down, her chest swelled with a mix of pride and gratitude. She'd done this, not alone, but with community that had become her family. Ethan found her after, guiding her to a quiet corner of the hub, away from the crowd. The space was lit with soft lights, photos of their journey lining the walls. Sarah coding, Tiana demoing the app, Michaela giggling in her stroller. "You were incredible," Ethan said, his voice thick. "This place, it's you, Sarah. Your strength, your vision." She shook her head, tears pricking her eyes. "It's us. You saw me when no one else did." He stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. "I saw you because I couldn't look away. From that night in the warehouse, I knew you were special. Not just your fight, but you." Her breath caught, her walls trembling. "Ethan, Wait," he said, his voice gentle but firm. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Sarah's heart stopped as he dropped to one knee, the crowd's hum fading into silence. "Sarah Mitchell," he said, opening the box to reveal a diamond ring. "Simple but radiant. You're my partner, my inspiration, my love. I want to build a life with you, with Michaela, here, in this place that means so much to us both. Marry me." The world tilted. Sarah's mind raced, her past, her fears, the warehouse's cold grip. She'd sworn never to depend on anyone, to protect Michaela above all. But Ethan wasn't asking for dependence. He was offering partnership, love born from shared struggle. His eyes held hers, steady and true, and she saw the boy from the shelters, the man who'd fought for her, for this hub, for a future they could shape together. Michaela's laughter broke through, her stroller nearby, and Sarah's tears fell. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Yes, Ethan." He slipped the ring on her finger, standing to pull her into his arms. The crowd noticed, cheers erupting as they realized what had happened. Sarah laughed through her tears, holding Ethan tight, the warehouse's ghost finally at rest. This place, once a nadir, was now a monument to hope, love, and second chances. As they rejoined the celebration, Ethan whispered, "There's one more thing. I want you to co-lead TechBridge with me. Not just this hub, but the vision, equal partners." Sarah's eyes widened, her heart soaring. "You mean it?" "Always," he said, his smile a promise. They danced under the lights, Michaela clapping in her stroller, the community around them a testament to what they'd built. Sarah was no longer invisible. She was a leader, a partner, a woman in love. The warehouse had been her breaking point, but this love, purpose, family was her becoming. What's a moment when a single act of kindness changed your life forever? Share below and let's celebrate the power of seeing the unseen.
Wow, thank you so much for watching. Seriously, your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed this video, the biggest way you can show me love and encourage me to keep creating is to hit that like button and subscribe. Takes 1 second, but it makes a huge difference. Speaking of more videos, I've got another exciting one lined up for you. Just click on the next video showing right on your screen now to keep the fun going. See you there.